welcome to CHP TV. I'm Andrew Soteropoulos.
And I'm Terry Magalakis.
Guys, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't, make sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment on today's episode and furthermore.
Yes.
So, Terry?
Yes. Well, actually, before we actually get into the quote I wanted to share with you guys, I wanted to recap from last week's episode, which we spoke about insanity versus creativity, and especially knowing that there is a very fine line between the two.
Yeah.
We found it was very, I would say, challenging to actually describe to our audience, especially what is the difference between insanity versus creativity. But in the end, we did find that they actually work hand in hand.
Hand in hand,
Yeah.
and it's something that I think if you haven't watched, make sure to do so.
Yeah.
It was last week's episode, and I think it starts, the whole point of this show is for inspiration, motivation. It's also to find that inspirational thought that's going to move you forward, to find your purpose, to unlock that potential within, or as Anthony Robbins will say, awaken the giant within.
Yeah.
It's also to get your creativity going and saying, look, what can we do more
Yep.
of? What do we need to do less? And get ourselves, transitioning into that phase. So
That's it. Yes. So
furthermore,
to begin with today's episode, like I said, there is a quote from Aristotle. Now, I want you to really understand and really grasp with what I'm about to say to you, because this is very, very challenging. But Aristotle had quoted that to say of what is that it is not, or of what is not that it is false. While to say of what it is that it is, and of what it's not that it's not, is true. Now, this may be hard to grasp, but I can see the expression on your face. It's something that's very, very hard, and especially knowing that you haven't written it down. You do like it because it does confuse the mind, but it also does make you very intrigued, and it should make you very intrigued, which we'll basically talk about that quote much later on today. But what we wanted to talk about, especially understanding both sides when it comes to the fact or the truth, and you be the judge of this. Now, as we go through this, right, I want you to have an open mind. I want you to basically to be relaxed and to actually understand and come from a place of curiosity and knowledge, and to really understand with what we're saying, to grasp it with every single detail, and to come across saying, you know what, I might have my own opinion, but at the end of the day, fact or truth, you be the judge from it. Again, your own perspective, it matters to you, but also know that you are listening to us today. It really does help. So without further ado, to the first topic we want to pretty much talk about, the first is, what is the difference between fact or truth? And basically, from what I've written down, Andrew, especially understanding facts. So let's first be clear about what it's meant by fact, or fiction, or opinion. The Oxford Dictionary of English, defines a fact as a thing that is known or proved to be true. And again, isn't it funny how the word true is actually in the description of what fact is? So fiction, right, knowing that it is part of fact, refers to something that is invented or untrue. As for an opinion, it is a view of judgment formed about something, though not necessarily based on fact or knowledge. And to distinguish, facts, fiction, or opinions, and all that sort of stuff, the first step is to know where such content can appear. Whether it's with friends, with family, on the internet, in books, or even to an expert like us with what we're talking about to you guys today. You've basically you differentiate what is fact and what is truth, and basically with this, what I want to actually bring up.
Well, I want to ask you is
go for it.
Two things. First, when it comes to opinions, for me, what I believe is true about opinions is judgment, but I think opinions are formed in a moment of time, over a space of time. So you gather all the information. Someone asks you a question, or there's a moment, or you're a manager, or you're at work. Someone asks you a question, and your brain tinkers through sorts through and distorts and generalizes all the information and says, this is what I think at this moment, what I feel. I don't think it's a general perspective. It's not an actual reason for whatever it is that you're talking about. But the second thing is, how can fact or truth help our viewers today? How can it help people?
Because they always say that when a belief is there because of truth. Because they always said that a certain belief that you have set upon yourself, it is a truth to you. It might not be a truth to another person, but sometimes to understand fact and truth, the example I love to give to you guys is a little kid that I had written up about in one of the books, and I forgot which book it was, but they actually said about how this kid was portrayed, and this is for a second topic, but I want to talk about it now, was how the failure part whether this is fact or truth.
Yeah.
Right. And the way it's worded.
Yeah.
So by saying fact, right, I am a failure.
Yeah.
Right. Now that could be seen as a truth or a fact.
Yeah.
Same with
I'm
failed.
depressed.
Yeah,
I am OCD.
Yeah, I am this. I am this.
Like a lot of what we say in coaching, people
Yeah.
say, I get overwhelmed, and we say,
Yeah.
no, you do overwhelm.
You don't get overwhelmed. You do not get it. You do not go to the supermarket and buy
you
it.
buy it off the shelf, and then you possess it.
You
and
have it. Yeah,
you
have it, and
you
you
do
become
do
that.
it. You become that. Yeah.
So with fact and truth, they said with it's merely depicted. It could be depicted as positive or negative, and again, the way it is portrayed, whether it's I am a failure or I have failed.
Yeah.
Well, the fact and truth side of things is dependent on how you see it, whether it's positive or negative, and whether it's true to you. So that kid that had seen that as I am a failure or I have failed, right? Again, this comes down to whether you believe it or not.
Yeah.
Right. And look, I'm sure that with fact and truth, I mean, you see a lot of stuff on the internet.
Yeah.
Certain articles, even books that we've read, especially with self-development. Yeah. Now, it's each person's opinion, right?
Well, yeah, it is.
It's each person's opinion that is known to be a proven fact or proven truth.
Well, it's like when I started my coaching journey, and when I started to study coaching and NLP and a lot of, law of attraction, a lot of quantum physics science and a lot of things. It's almost like, say, for example, religion, and people are like, you can't pick and choose. And I think, well, there's a belief. That's a belief too.
That's a belief. But that's the thing, because religion, you got so many religions out there. What is truth and what is fact?
Yeah, that's right. Where is it heading to? Like with coaching, what I found was, okay, so I've got my manual. I look at it, and I can feel it right now because I love the manual, because it just gives you so much information. But not everything worked for me.
Yep.
So I tried everything and said, all right, this isn't what works for me, and this does work for me. So just because this thing.
So was that truth? Or was that truth or fact? So I'm saying, if you saw something and it worked, was that a fact that it worked for you, or was it a truth that I know this will work?
Well,
for me?
it was a fact that it because it was a theme. It was a fact, but it wasn't a fact that it worked for me though.
Right. Okay.
But it was. So it doesn't necessarily always work for that person. Like being a soccer coach, me training my two strikers a certain way, one might not work that way to the other, even though it's the fact of but that's the drill, that's the science behind it, but that doesn't mean that the person, it works for that person, because everybody has a different personality type,
character.
So, that's right, different character.
I like when you're saying about how it works for you, and what I found, guys, especially with what you said, I'm so glad you said it, was to understand both is that the truth is what you had said upon yourself. Like I said, the fact acts as evidence.
Yeah.
Let's think of that. Let's think of it that way. Let's say,
like
for instance,
when you sought for information, when you look, the truth nobody likes me. You start getting more people. I don't. All classic example. I know I'm stuttering my words. It's only because I've got so many ideas. Perfect example. All women are liars. All men are liars. Then that person wonders why they're in bad relationships all the time, because you sort that information out.
But that's the thing, though. If you take it in a negative concept like
that,
but the thing is, though, for a truth, this is where I go, well, what is truth? If women are going out and saying, and we're not trying to create any sort of controversy. We're just trying to say that this has happened, and this is where it's going, where certain people are saying things that might be true, and yet people don't question it. People don't take the time out of the day to become curious and understand, well, where is this coming from, and to go against that. Because maybe it's not true. And the fact is that if there's no evidence to support it, then it's not fact. And then it's
people will sort and try to find evidence and be like, well, that person, lied to me. Well, yeah, because that's what you were sorting for. That's exactly what you were going for. It's like the perfect example when, it's like when you say, you start talking about a certain car, and then you see that car everywhere, or your truth in your head has become basically the evidential fact of you seeing it out there. Of seeing that car constantly every day. Like, for example, the other day, and it just happened today, I was not introduced, like I was working, and I met this person. This guy was really cool and all that, and I was like, oh my God, this company is actually pretty good, right? And just driving on the way here, I'm like, oh, that person looks familiar. Ended up being that guy. Like, what's the odds of seeing that guy? Because that's what I was sorting for. I was obviously sorting for that and being like, I like that company. Is that something I want to work for? Or want to work with?
The like is truth to you.
Yeah, that's right.
And now sometimes it could work other ways. Like saying the fact could be that, this company is great, or I'm in a loving relationship. Now, the truth of the side of it is, and like I said, it works both ways. The evidence comes out through fact and truth. And this where, I was going to talk about one of your topics was what you were saying. Well, what have you written here? Because I know
the map is not the territory. So something that comes up with in NLP, in neuro-linguistic programming, and it's a theme that coaches use, that the map does not equal the territory.
Of course.
And what the simple way of saying it is what Anthony Robbins said was that the meaning that we ascribe to life is what we get out of life. So pretty much, not in that sense, what I mean by that also, and what I think he means by that, the meaning you give to an event makes it true, but not truth itself. So, for example, I break my leg as a kid, and I say, I'm never going to run fast ever again. That's not truth. But the evidence is showing, because I've got a broken leg, circumstances make it true. As the man
and
thinker, you get worked up about it.
Yeah, as the man thinkers, the circumstances that are you allowing circumstances to take control of your life? And
That's right.
There's a lot of issues where it comes to this, is that people that take circumstances and they put the truth and fact into that.
Well, that's right. Yeah,
it's
that's
like
right.
If
that's
you,
correct.
you could be a great soccer player, you break your leg.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sure a lot of athletes
The
out there,
confidence of going back in and trying to do the same things
Exactly.
again, you get low. Then that's where low self-esteem comes from. That's where depression comes from, and anxiety, and things that really manipulate our mind and really affect the way we do things. Because, and a quick little story, when I was a kid, we had to do a play at Greek school, and I was so petrified because I have to learn a script, man. I'm like 7 years old and 8 years old, whatever I was, and I have to learn this script. And I've got my parents. I still remember my dad sitting here, my mum sitting here, and my grandparents, and I killed it. And after that, it's because I tried. I actually gave it a go, and I just had no fear, and I just practiced and practiced and practiced every night, and practice. And what I found is that that's where I broke through the barrier of public speaking at a very young age. And after and I've spoken.
you spoke about this to me as well. Yeah,
I've got countless awards in public speaking. I've never had the fear of public speaking. Whereas other people are like, oh my God, I wish I had that confidence. And it wasn't until the other day when I realized, like, my journey and the event of public speaking and not being scared of that, fact or truth, before the event, I was hopeless. I thought it wasn't going to work out. I thought, oh my God, I'm going to make a fool of myself.
But then, as it came to be, the truth will set you free. And
That's
the truth
right.
was that you are a great public speaker.
And it did set me free. And it a quick little story. At the age of 7 or 8, I tried to start a revolution at school. Right? But for whatever reason, but it just led me an understanding and saying, oh my God, I can actually do these things. It gave me evidence and proof that if I applied myself, I could get results. Whereas other people think, I can't get that job. I can't get that girl, that guy.
Well, then life will say to you, well, you're right, then you can't get that job.
Well, that's right, you can't. Life will say you can't get it. There you go.
So there's a truth and there's a fact coming simultaneously. Coexisting. So basically, this brings up to the next sort of step in, it's understanding the difference between truth and fact. But where is the main source? Or, whom or where, is the source coming from? Now, like I said before, in the mention of the first sort of step was with that little kid. You are a failure versus I am a failure. You are a failure. Is that a fact or truth? And then sometimes, the expression through that, if you start failing at things, I am a failure. Yeah. No, you're not a failure. As what Bob Ross says, you're not a failure. You just make very small mistakes. And like I said, both could be true in fact, but however, your perspective to see past failure and bounce back from the misconceptions. Is it providing the source or someone or something else? And this is something that, like I said, you're bouncing back from misconceptions from this. So, and why I said human, where it's coming from, again, it's an external sort of outing towards you, whether it is a certain experience or a certain personnel that says something. Now, you can take this on board. As my grandfather said to us, one thing he quoted, he goes, now I know why I have 2 years. Is because I have the choice to either listen to things that keep it within my mind or listen to something else and let it go out the other ear. Yeah. And it's so true because, again, you are the main person that makes the decisions. You are the main person who basically controls your own life. I'm sure that you guys, that when it comes to whom and where or what experience or who, whether it's negative or positive, that you can take
whatever
this
you're going through at this moment,
and whether it's true or not true. And look, For the thing I was going to ask you as well, especially with, the human where it's coming from as well, I think you said, well, staying comfortable. Was it staying comfortable you were talking about before, or was it more of the feedback?
Yeah, so when we were putting everything together, and this topic, I think, goes to the heart of a lot of things, and it's something that is meaningful for us, and that's why we try to put these together. Isn't just for lack of better words, shits and gigs. It's because we genuinely want to help people. Like, it's something that we care about the most,
and that's truth to us.
That's truth to us.
And the fact is that you guys are watching this right now.
That's right, and
this
that's
is evidence.
the fact.
This is evidence that we want to help you guys.
And something I learned as a coach was there's no such thing as failure, only feedback, and it's something that brought me to, and it's what helped me overcome depression. It helped me overcome a lot of things. I know depression doesn't necessarily exist, but it's real in that moment. So it's truth in that moment, right? So overcoming certain things.
But the thing with the depression and with certain the way doctors diagnose certain people and they label you. Because this is what really annoys me, is that when certain people label you, is that a truth and yet
people always try to seal you
and box you. But that's what I'm trying to say to you, is that if someone seals you, right, now that, again, an outside source, an outside experience, now you have the choice to state your claim, right, and say to yourself, is this true to you? Now, if it's true to you, you will express it the way that people have labeled you, and it becomes fact that you are this person. However, if you are the sort of person that you, if you are sealed in that box and someone's telling you, because that's their truth that it's based it on, you can have the choice to say, go against it and say that's not true.
Well, that's the thing. That's where, and this is where I was going to come in. There's no such thing as failure, only feedback. And I realized that everything in life has a meaning behind it. There's a reason behind it, and there's a learning experience. In saying that, the story I want to tell you guys, I only heard this on the way. I listen to podcasts every day, mainly ours, right? By Nilofer Merchant, who has worked with Google, has worked with Apple, has worked with many companies. Her sales exceed over $18 billion a year. Now, this lady, traditional Islamic Indian, grew up in America, and she was arranged to get married at 18 years of age. Right. Now, obviously, things have changed since then. And what she found was, because it goes towards what we're talking, it goes to the heart of what we're talking about, boxing people in. So her uncle was negotiating the agreement. Imagine that your life as a woman was being negotiated by your uncle in terms with another family, right? And you need a dowry. The mother saying, the dowry, you need to buy me a house, to the other person. Right? So the girl's like, wait a minute, but I want an education. No, can't have that. The house wasn't even for them. The other family needed to buy a house for the mother. Right? So what she thought was, all right, you know what I'll do? I'll just put some books. I'll just run out of the house, give it a couple hours. Obviously, she'll want to know where I'm at. 15 years later, 15 years go by before they even speak. So 15 years have changed. She didn't get married. She obviously went and got married with someone else, had a kid, has a 14-year-old kid. So a year later, she gets married to whoever she wants to be, 14 years later, and blah, blah, blah. Right? And what she was saying is that in her eyes, I failed her. Yes, that is correct. That is truth, because in her eyes, I failed her. And what happens is that what we don't realize is we get boxed in by family members, we get boxed in, and I don't mean by boxed into a corner, we get limits and a ceiling put over us. And this lady here was told, no, you have to get married and that is your life, and this is what the dowry is and whatnot. Now, I'm not saying that's not in every I'm not saying that's in every culture, and everybody adjusts and adapts to their own traditions and culture. Not everybody does that. Obviously, this is her case, and she's turned out to be one of these most I think she's 50 in the top 50 of most influential thinkers in the world. So someone that went from, all right, I'm going to be arranged to get married, to I'm going to run out of the house, to 15 years later speak to her mum for the first time and say, society will
conform you in a way that they think is appropriate.
is appropriate to you. Now that's what they think is to you. So that's
society,
their truth.
no,
Society,
yeah,
family
yeah.
will try to conform you to what's appropriate to you, what they think is appropriate to you. But it's not necessarily you.
And this goes. But well, actually, this brings us to the third and final topic. And before we get into it, it's using factual truth to your advantage. I'm so glad you brought that up because you can see the two polar opposites. The family wants that person to get married, right? And the other person goes, no, I have so much things to do in my life.
No, but she's like, I'm happy to get married, but can I go to get an education?
Yeah. So one person's education, they find that is the truth for them. That I want to become more an educated person. The family saying, no, you should become married, be a housewife, and all that sort of stuff. So you got polar opposites banging against each other, and yet there's misconception on each side. You've got to understand this: is that the misconception is going towards the mother. Maybe she never had an education. Right, let's think of it that way. And the other person goes, maybe I don't want to be conformed as being a housewife and feeding my kids and stay at home. I want to get myself educated. And look what happened. That knowing that she used that truth to herself, that I am not this, I am not that, but I am this. That is truth.
Well, that's why she's in the top 50 of influential thinkers. Because...
And that's fact. See what I'm saying?
That's the fact.
That's the fact
because
that now she's influential
she
thinker.
sees what others don't see in others. Because what happened was the event of the mother turned her into a person and say, listen, I'm going to help get that. And to the core of it, it's what we do as coaches to help find that thing inside that makes the person be that person in the world. Because anyone can be an influential thing. Anyone can influence the world to be better. But yeah,
of course. And look, bringing that up as well. Look, knowing that she did say that and she fled the house 15 years later and all that sort of stuff. Now she's this. You've got to understand that using both the fact and truth to your advantage is is plausible. Now the quote that I said in the beginning, like I said with Aristotle, and I'll say it again, and I'll say it that to say of what is that it is not, or of what it is not that it is false. While to say of what it is that it is, and of what is not that it is not, is true. The reason now this might sound very confusing to you in the beginning,
it's a mind scramble.
It's a mind scramble, yeah, very, very. But this is the point that I wanted you guys to have really think about is that
that's what it feels like to be coached by coaches.
Yeah, and especially from someone that's Greek and a philosopher and stuff, Aristotle. But the main point of this quote, and like I said, I'll say it again near the end before we finish, is that why is this so applicable? Why is this important to the fact of truth? And I'm not saying you, be a judge of it. No, it's fact is that he's saying that. If it's something, it's the immoral act. If it's something immoral, then it's immoral to obey it.
Of course.
And that's a truth to us. And the fact is that if you see something happening to another individual and you go up and go, I don't like this, right? That's truth to you. Now, the fact is how you go about it, whether you actually stop that person from doing other things that is conflicting with the other person. Like I said, if we see someone, when we get much bigger than what we are right now, guys, especially in the coaching industry, if we see someone who's distraught, suicidal, that sort of stuff, we get to the main cause of it. We get to
regardless,
the
even
source.
in coaching, full stop. You see it with people. Even when I've been a soccer coach, you see what the problem is.
Yeah, of course. But
if you don't do anything about it,
well, that's what I'm saying. Because sometimes I know some people don't do anything about it because they feel helpless. Why we come into it is because when we go into it, we give you the ultimate truth. Now, we also give you the fact that you can change this, and we show you certain ways and tools and resources to change that. And this is why, with this Aristotle quote, and why I personally think it is very confusing, but it's also very uplifting, is because he knows the difference between truth and fact. He knows when you see something that's fake and what's something that's real, and you make the choice whether this is moral or this is immoral. And this is why I find that with what you're saying before, especially with people, right? Sure, they might not have the power, but it's up to them to have the initiative to come to us, and we scramble it, and we basically break it down to little
well, that's
pieces
what you need to do
to make the person understand
like
the
going
truth.
off that. And it's like when people have a problem, the only thing they see is the problem. Instead of trying to find the solution.
That's the truth and fact for them.
Right?
That is a problem.
The truth is they have a problem. The fact is they need to find a solution. That's the fact.
Well,
right?
but the thing is,
but it's also the truth.
Yeah, the thing is, though, sometimes people get the truth and fact mixed up. So they say, "I've got a problem." The fact is, well,
they think that's the fact. They think that the problem is a fact. So depressed, they think being depressed is a fact. No, because you can get over it. You can move away from it.
Exactly.
You know when not to do that, because I was diagnosed with OCD. I was diagnosed with depression. I was diagnosed with OCD, ADD, ADHD, high definition HD, all sorts of DVD. Like, not to look, I'm not trying to be
ADHD
rude about it. I'm not trying to be
no. This is something
I'm saying it because I know that moment in my life, and I laugh about it now, because it's like I'm gonna have good and bad days. I don't need to be told that when it's bad, it has to be bad, and that's it. Because that's what I think is happening.
From one great example of what you've gone through, right, and you've come out on the other side, being told that I couldn't read, write, or speak properly, and now I've published my book.
Yeah,
that is the fact is that it's over there. And the reason why we bring up these stories, to help you guys understand, is that because we took something that might be true to another person, but yet we scrambled it and made it true to ourselves. And the fact is that we're still here, living and breathing.
But you know what I think it is? Sorry,
we're still here living and breathing, and you're doing great things with yourself. We're doing great things with ourselves.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is I think if you look at it,
like, the truth that we know is that we're much more greater than what they say.
And I think that's what brings it together. And I think that's why we have so much love and passion for what we do. But we also have the ability to change things. Our ego doesn't get in our way. Our ego, in a positive way, if you go back and watch the other videos, we use it as creativity rather than a negative, and say, look, like, for example, looking at our first set of videos, going into here and saying, look what we're doing.
Since last year when we were doing the videos, and where we came from to now.
It was the start of the year we were doing the videos.
Yeah.
And then it just changed dramatically, because we're like, okay, cool, we've done that. It's for that. Now let's make a show. Let's do something about it.
That's it.
Let's actually influence and get out there and actually help people and actually do something about it. Because
that's it.
Think of it. Yeah. Think about it. We couldn't stand for what was happening in our own life, let alone happening in other people.
And we created our own truth for ourselves.
That's right, and we did. And I think it comes at a point in time where you have to ask yourself, is it worth, like, okay, first question, what will it cost you by being in the same situation you're in? Financially, materialistically, family, 10, 20, 30 years in time.
Career, relationship, hobbies,
money, everything, career, finance, spirituality, anything and everything. And I think the second thing you need to ask yourself is how much longer can I really do this? Whether it is anxiety, depression, and it's sometimes looking at it, you know how you're saying fact or truth, like how to use it in your advantage, going, all right, I'm feeling sad at the moment. Why am I sad? Questioning things. Like, the moment we start questioning things is the moment we start getting answers. But if you keep saying, why me,
step out, like what Tony Robbins, when he said in that documentary, stay in your head, you're dead. What I really mean by that is that stay in your unconscious mind, you're dead, because you need your conscious mind to start developing your own way of thinking. Of course, thought comes from that, but what I'm saying to you is you need the conscious mind to start seeing things as it is, not worse than it is, but also come to agreement with yourself, going, I'm not happy with where I am, but I know it obviously will be better. And the fact is that I will be
better
this
off
person.
than what they are.
Exactly right.
So and that's when it comes to truth and asking yourself those questions.
Yeah, that's it.
Pardon me, and saying to yourself, everybody goes through tough times. You imagine being a billionaire, millionaire. People are like, oh my god, look how much money, they must be happy. A lot of people, when they get that money, they realize that's not what I was doing it for. I need more meaning. So that's why they spend more money, or they go do. So they try to find. As a human being, we try to find meaning and we try to belong. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the middle tier, I think, is belonging, and we try to belong before we try to do anything else. So before we even try to find a career or aspiration or go out and do something, we try to belong. And if we don't belong in that, because we're human beings and we need to find our pack and we try to find who we are as people, we get caught up with life and events, and we put meanings to those events. And instead of saying, I'm depressed right now, what can I do about it? I'm anxious about this. Of course you're anxious. You're going for a job interview. That's fine. I get anxious when we speak. Of course, I'm just like, am I great at it? Yeah. Okay, it looks like I'm not nervous, But that's only for a split second. I've gone, I'm nervous because I've never met any of you. But what I will say this, and what helped me, and it's not a religious fact or anything, not a religious fact. What I'm saying is, what I said to myself was, if Judgment Day is true, right, and God one day will judge us. Now, please don't skip over this if you're not religious. It has no religious context to it. The content is religious, but the context isn't. And I said to myself, if he's going to judge me alone and no one else, and he's going to judge me upon my actions and non-actions and my responsibilities, then why does anyone else's opinion affect mine? Why would depression affect me? Why would anxiety affect me? Why would this affect me?
Yeah.
So next thing you know, you say to yourself, well, I might as well live my life.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, especially with knowing that, the difference between truth and fact, especially using that to your advantage, the whole aspect of, Judgment Day and all that sort of stuff. Like I said, guys, you be the judge on it, right? Whether if someone has said something to you based on an opinion or whether, it is a fact about you, right? You have the ability to change it. That's it. Let's just get straight to the point. You have the ability to change it. You have the ability to form your own truth about yourself because no one cares about you. Let's put it that way. In this world, what I've learned is that no one will ever care about you instead you start caring about yourself. Period. That's truth and that's fact. Right?
You can't love others unless you love yourself. You can't be in a great relationship. When I met Jasmine, I knew beforehand, I knew what I wanted to do with my life. I had a clear-cut plan of what I wanted. And the thing is that when I start to go offline of that, like when I start going off the road of that, I get very anxious and very sad. I get very angry, cranky at things, because I know this is what I want.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right, man. You can choose to be and do have and create anything you want, and it is up to you. And you're absolutely right. And I love that you chose that using truth or fact. And I love this topic that you've chosen and we've chosen and we've discussed because you're absolutely right, man.
Yeah. And look, like I said, guys, to end it, like I said, with the Aristotle quote again, to say of what it is that is not, or of what it is not that it is false. While to say of what it is that it is, and of what is not that is not to be true. And on that note, guys, to end today's episode.
Thank you, everyone. Make sure to like,
subscribe, comment down below, guys. Again, your support does really help us. And again, even topics that you want us to talk about, especially if you're needing help in certain areas, again, leave it down in the comments on the YouTube with CHP TV. And then, until then, guys.
Thank you very much.
Terry Magalakis.
Andrew Soteropoulos.